So yeah, like I said, we're going to start here with the strategic building blocks. These are the things that you're going to use to put together your strategies. These are the things that I use to put together strategies that I recommend. You can feel free to kind of mix and match these as much as you want, adapt them, create new ones. If you find new ones that work really well, feel free to let me know so that I can educate others, or keep it to yourself as a competitive advantage if you want to. But a lot of times when you find a new type of strategy, there's things that we can do from a back-end perspective, adding new features and stuff like that, that will help you execute on that strategy a little bit better. So don't be shy with letting me know, but feel free to let me know that, hey, I don't want this shared with anybody, and I'm happy to follow that. So the first one we've talked about before is our branding press release. This is always a premium press release. It is generally the first release that you issue on behalf of a new client. We talked about this in earlier sessions, but one of the really big value props that this gets you is it gives you a really solid example of work that you're doing on behalf of that client. You can send them the Yahoo link, you can send them the MSN link. You know, those are recognizable brands. You can say, hey, look, we're already working hard on your behalf. We're already getting stuff for you. You know, you can do it up to once a quarter if you really wanted to. If it's a competitive space, you might want to do that. Topically, you're just going to really, introduce the client, introduce their services, that sort of thing. It's not really a targeted sort of thing. It's very much just about branding. And then we'll also use this in various strategies as a foundational press release, to build on top of. You've heard me talk about press release stacking a lot. So some general concepts, what these are is a bunch of press releases that have one press release that we call a base press release, or you could call it a foundational press release, and then subsequent releases link back to other releases. I know that sounds a little bit weird. It'll make more sense here in a minute when we look at some diagrams, because it's not always the same type of release that it links to. The key here is to use thematic stacks. So it could either be all about a location, it could be all about a service in that location, it could be all about a product, that sort of thing. But try and keep your stacks thematically similar. The base release that you start with should only have one link in it, and that should go back to something that's relevant to the stack theme. Again, that sounds really kind of high level, and the reason for that is because as we apply these concepts, then we're going to link back to different things. So again, we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. And then the stack releases, all they should link to is the target release. Again, we'll talk about what that target release is in a minute. And then you can optionally, if you want to, and I haven't seen any downside to this, you can use a second link in stack releases that points to the actual ID page. I would not point it to any content or anything like that, any socials or anything along those lines. But if you wanted to link to an ID page for that, you could experiment with like an iframe farm page or something like that. You can play around with that as well. I haven't tried that, but I do know that linking to an ID page is not harmful in any way. Some more concepts here. Don't be afraid to run multiple stacks at a time for a given client. In fact, I recommend it, and we'll talk about that down the road. If you have a brand that's kind of Google is confused about the entity, or you need to enhance the brand in some way, then you can use what I call a pure branding stack, which is just focused on the brand itself. You can kind of do a hybrid model too, by making sure that stacks that you build also focus on branding as well, so that if you don't need that pure branding stack, then do it that way. That's actually the way I would recommend it. Always use your stacks for keywords or services or locations or whatever, and then layer the branding aspect of it on top of that as part of your your instructions in the release, or kind of your keywords that you choose. You're using keywords with brand, that sort of thing. That's going to give you some good double dipping type of results there. The number of releases that you use per stack, I know that's a common question. It really depends on the exact structure that you're using, as well as what you're promoting and who that client is. The main thing to really think of is making sure you pick carefully what release pickups that you use as part of your stacks. A lot of people are just going to use the ones here on pressadvantage.com because we control it, so we can make sure that you get all of the features, all the bells and whistles that we offer as part of that. But a lot of people will use like a Yahoo pickup or something like that to kind of piggyback on to some of that extra link authority there. If you do that, and you don't know for sure that it's something that's going to stick. So Yahoo's pretty safe, right? MSN, pretty safe. But if you link to other pickups, use a link redirect so that you can redirect that if that happens to go down. We have had cases where a network has fallen off of our radar, or for example, when we separated ways with Digital Journal because of their SEO practices. If you had those links as part of your foundation, those would have gone away. So you'd want to be able to redirect those if as best you can. And then, as much as you can use our automation to simplify the stacking, it can get really fiddly if you don't. And so I always encourage you to use our automation heavily for this. So the first type of a stack is what I call a press release silo. It's a very simple vertical structure. Generally, you're looking at 4 to 6 releases in a given stack. You can go higher than that, you can go lower than that, but we see 4 to 6 working really well, and then moving on to a new stack. Your base release here, the dark blue, it's going to link to your target site, wherever it is on that target site. We'll talk about where to link to in a minute, but that base release is going to link to the target site. And then each stack release links to a previous release. So release 1 links to the base release. Release 2 links to the release 1, and then release 3 would go to release 2, and so on and so forth. So you end up with this silo where each it's a flow down of link equity and authority all the way down through that base release to the target site. So you're getting some amplification there that way, and it's it's one of those things where when it's tightly thematic, this works really well. The next kind of variant of this is what I call the press release cloud. Similar to the silo before, you have a base release that's linking to the target site, and then you have a bunch of other releases that are not linking back to the original release, they're linking back to the base release. And then you can use for this model, I typically say this is one where you're going to go 6 or more. It can be a little bit looser from a topic basis, and we'll cover that again in just a minute here, but this is the other model. I tend to prefer this one. I like this one. It gives me a little bit more flexibility, because what I can do is I can actually take some of the stack releases and develop them into silos of their own. And so it gives me a lot of flexibility here, and it really pushes everything through that base release so that I have a big focal point there, and I can use a lot of other off-page structures if I want to kind of amplify everything even more. So this to me is a really flexible situation where I can mix and match and combine some of these strategies. We talked about the branding cloud, before, where we were taking a stack and we're building brand with it. The only difference here between the previous one is instead of using a base release, we're going to link everything back to the media room, because the media room is a big brand presence. And so we're going to try and amplify that as best we can, which of course links back to the target site as well. And it has all the schema on it, and it has the embeds on it, all that sort of thing. And it also appears very natural. The one caveat here is that you definitely want to think about being careful with the anchor text that you use here. I would recommend that you use a fully branded anchor when you're linking from the stack releases to the media room, because any type of generic anchor or anything like that is, and certainly don't mention Press Advantage in there, because you're building brand for that client, you're not building brand for us. So I hope this kind of helps from just an overall perspective of what we want to do. And there's actually a slide missing here. I thought I made a slide, maybe it's later on, but let me go back here and talk about this for a minute. I mentioned using more of a hybrid approach here on the cloud with stacks. So let's take stack release number 1, and we're gonna use Bradley Benner's tree service stuff as a model here. And so maybe we're gonna look at tree clearing here, and then release 2 is gonna be about arborist services. Well, we can decide that, hey, we're going to take this tree service release and we're going to turn it into the base of a regular silo. And then we're going to amplify that one up. And then all of that is going to continue to flow down through the base release and into the target site. This is something that I really like because, it really allows you to be creative with your structure. It allows you to build, use lots of press releases and, really amplify all of that, link authority and relevance through to one funnel point that is natural, and then through to the target site. So I thought I had a slide on that. I apparently didn't, unless it's further in one of the vertical specific models. If we do, then we'll talk about it there. So any questions about that before we go on to vertical specific stuff? Cool. We can pick up questions later too if there are any. So our baseline strategy for local businesses, this is average competition, right? And by average, when I talk about competition for local, I'm talking about a couple of different things. I'm talking about the vertical itself, right? The niche. Is plumbers generally a competitive industry? Is dentistry a competitive industry? Is tree service a competitive industry? You're going to know, based on what industries you're working with and what you're focusing on, you're going to know how that falls into the big picture competitive wise. And then the other component to it for local is the actual location. So a given business in Los Angeles is going to be much more competitive than a given business in, like Podunk, Missouri, where I live, right? So you already know that the competitive nature, comparison there is different. So this is where your expertise and knowledge and understanding of your client comes into play, where you decide where they fit in from a competition wise. But on average, you're going to be using 2 releases a month for about 4 to 6 months. When it's ranking where you'd like, then you start backing off to 1 release every 6 weeks. You're going to split your releases between different topics and stacks and sometimes branding. Ideally, you're going to focus on a couple of different topics at a time. And then what you don't want to do is, if you have 15 different topics that you want to cover for that client, you don't necessarily want to just rotate through all of them. Focus on a couple of them at a time, and then when they're kind of at a health level that you like, then you move on to a couple of others. So you're just kind of constantly replacing those. You're linking primarily to GMB, branded assets, and socials. And this is a caveat I've mentioned a lot of times. Be very careful when you use links that you're linking to the share links. Don't use the fancy SEO links that we all know how to get, because those are not things that are natural. When you are sharing a link with a friend, when you are posting a link to social media, when you are doing anything like that, you're going to use a share link. So use the share links as links for your press releases. I can't tell you how many times I see people using carefully crafted technical links that look great, and those are wonderful and all, but they're not natural. We don't want to give Google as much of a footprint to make them think that we're trying to manipulate things, regardless of what we're actually trying to do. So don't use those SEO expert links. Use share links as much as you possibly can. So in a higher competitive, local situation, you're going to start at 4 releases a month for same 4 to 6 months, but be comfortable ramping up to 6 if you need to. You'll get this feeling after a couple months, where if you're not seeing any kind of movement, then you may need to ramp up a little bit. You can often back off to 1 release every 6 weeks, but you should probably plan on only being able to back off to 1 a month. This is generally what we see. Again, everything is different, so by all means try and back off a little bit further so that you can save that money and build that margin into your offerings, right? But don't be alarmed if you can't back off quite that far. I do like to stick to 1 press release per active topic every month. So you can add a few more active topics. So before where we were saying let's only stick with about two, now you might actually have 4 active topics. And by topic, just so we're clear, but I mean, that can be locations, it can be services at that location, it can be, location plus service, it can be keywords, anything that you're trying to rank for. That's what I'm talking about with a topic or a stack. Link flow is no different. GMB, branded assets, and socials. And then for higher competitive stuff, certainly consider using CTR tools. I do like them. You can often even have them follow a click flow through a stack. And we've seen some benefit from that. And so kind of experiment with your favorite tool. But we do see this definitely moving the needle from a rankings perspective and a branding perspective, because this also helps your PRs rank a little bit better for branded search. Lower competition, just start at 1 release a month right away, and you probably only need to do it for 3 to 4 months. Same back off scheme, so you're going to drop back to 1 every 6 weeks. You might even be able to get to 1 every 2 months, although I don't really recommend that. I think that Google likes to see that frequency in play. But and again, try to avoid more than 2 active topics. You're obviously not going to be able to, you want to mix it up, so don't just go with 1, but more than 2 is going to really dilute that that relevance a bit. So, and then with topics here, you can go heavier on the brand versus the keyword and relevance. And I'm not 100% sure why this works, but it does. And then the link structure doesn't change at all. So talking about stacks themselves, always start with the branding stack. Use the branding PR as the base of the stack this time instead of the media room. You only do like 2 press releases. A lot of times what I will do is I will use that to introduce the services and tie them together with the brand itself. So a press release per service that's tied together from a brand focus as opposed to the service focus. After that, you can use whatever type of stacks that you like. You can use the silos, the clouds, or the hybrid model, or whatever, right? You can adapt as best you want. And then from a topic perspective, again, keyword location, just the location, service and location, and just pure service to add some relevance there too. Any questions on the local stuff? All right, cool. Organic is actually fairly straightforward. We're going to evaluate our competition, and we're going to size things the same way we did with local. Obviously, your competitive evaluation is going to be different from local, right? That's a whole different algorithm. We're looking at things differently. Again, you're picking a couple of topics to focus on. Don't dilute it too much. In this case, instead of services and stuff like that, we're linking to content. We're linking to case studies, lead magnets, that sort of thing. Each one of those, whether it's a pillar post or a case study or a lead magnet, that's your foundational, that's your target for a PR stack. So you're not linking to the homepage, you're linking to that case study, you're linking to that opt-in page that's going to give somebody the lead magnet, that sort of thing. Include a little bit more social links than you might otherwise do, and focus very heavily on branding, branding especially, because organic is very brand heavy. So the better you can establish that brand, the better you're going to do in organic search in general. And then don't be shy with CTR for this stuff, whether it's your pillars, your case studies, or especially your lead magnets where you're opting in. We want to show those some love, and some of the best ways to do that is through CTR manipulation, whether we like it or not. It works really, really well. So that's the overall strategy that we're going to use for organic. So again, it's very similar to the local stuff. You can use all the same structures and strategies. It's just what you're pointing to is going to be different. Let's roll into some e-com stuff. This is for non-Amazon stuff. So this is on a Shopify storefront or WooCommerce or any of these non-Amazon locations. We're going to start with a branding release, but we don't need to do a full stack. Just one branding release is going to be good. And we're going to pick some popular products. If it's a new store and you're not sure what products are going to be popular, do your best guess, right? For e-com, it is really important that your on-page and technical is on point, especially with categories, canonicalization, all that sort of thing. It is really easy for, link equity, if you will, link juice to get lost in e-com sites because there's so much cross-linking that goes on. It can turn into a big pile of spaghetti. So you really need to make sure that your on-page and technical and internal linking is all on point here. So definitely make sure that you do some effort there to to really focus there. Stacks are really effective still. They're not quite as necessary, but they still work pretty well. You can use a single product. You can use a set of similar products, and that should say, an entire category of products. I'm not sure why I forgot to write that. But do be careful. Obviously, we can't write about sales and discounts and coupon codes and that sort of thing. So you have to be careful to talk more about the product and the features and stuff like that, as opposed to, hey, we're having a 50% off sale. Volume wise, it's kind of up to you. We do recommend 2 a month per store, but this is a place, unlike local, where you don't get any real benefits out of going up past 6 or so a month. For ecom, you can actually get some solid benefit by going, the sky's the limit, essentially, as long as you're not going over more than 2 a month on any given product, right? So if you've got 10 great products, you could easily send out 10 press releases a month and one press release per product, right? Something along those lines. So you can scale this up if you really wanted to focus on a lot of different products. Obviously, if it's a smaller store, then stick with a 2 a month, but don't be shy about using more when it comes to ecom. For best overall results, make sure you include a product specific video in each press release. So if a press release is about a product, embed a video that is relevant to that product. If it is a branding press release, then hey, maybe you have a backstory video or something that talks to the brand, something along those lines, embed that. But as much as you can, bring that product relevance into play, do so. The simplest product strategy that I like to use is kind of like a cloud. It's not really a stack. You're going to use 3 or so press releases per product, and each release just links to the product. You're going to vary the topic as best you can. So you might talk about different features of the product or whatever, and then again, always embed that video. A similar version, just with that stacking method. You can see this is the same general idea as the cloud that we talked about before. Just your base releases linking to the target product, and you're embedding the product video everywhere else. For higher competition, and this is kind of that hybrid approach I was talking about before, taken from the local side of things into an e-com side of things, you're going to take that cloud stack, and then you're going to build on top of that several feature stacks. Each feature stack is a stack, whether it's a silo or a cloud. And for this, I probably use a silo that is focused on a specific major feature of the product. And then the base release for that stack links back to the base release for this actual, product cloud, and which then links in turn back to the target product, right? So making sure that every feature stack is relevant for that major product feature. Product video 100% of the time, same thing. All we're doing here is we're leaning on building relevance for those individual features. So, if it's a minor feature, don't do this, right? If it's a major feature like, wireless, wireless headphones or something like that, and you want to really focus on the wireless aspect of it, great. That's more of a major feature, right? Talking about how it comes in black and red and blue is probably not a major feature, so you wouldn't base a stack on that. So you're going to have to look at each product specifically about this and decide where you want to kind of draw the line on features. This is actually really powerful in more competitive spaces. It's not as critical, let's say, in lower competition ecom. For product launches, this is a simple strategy that we've used for 8 years now, something like that. And a lot of, just so we're clear, a lot of this ecom stuff comes from how we were embedded into in the FBA market for years with one of our other products that we've shut down. So we learned a lot about using press releases with ecom. So a lot of this stuff comes from there, and it still works really well today. It's a simple 3 release strategy. You're going to build all of these ahead of time, right? Well in advance of the product launch. and then you're going to use scheduled distribution to have them go out on a very specific cadence. So you want everything to be written, approved, ready to go about a month ahead of time. So you're going to need the final product link or a good redirect link that you can use for, like release 1 and release 2, maybe. Release 3, obviously you should have that final product link, and you can, kind of tweak that as needed. If you have product videos for this new product, embed them. Right? Again, it sounds like a broken record there with embedding the videos, but it's really important. So the first release is going to go out 2 weeks prior to launch. It's going to introduce the product. We're going to provide some general product information and drop the launch date and say, hey, this can be released on such and such a date. Then 3 days before the launch date, we're going to send out another press release. We're going to focus on one key product feature. Doesn't matter what it is. You're just going to pick one that you think has the most vibe and is going to have, be the most attractive to that target audience, and you're going to focus on that. And then you're just going to drop a general reminder that, hey, this is going to be available in 3 days. This is where you can get a little bit more creative. If you want to, offer people early birds, opportunities or something like that, you can drop it in there too. And then on release 3, it's the launch day. You're going to send it out in the morning of the launch date, Eastern time morning. And this is just a launch announcement with a link to the where they can buy it and that sort of thing. So this 3 release stack works really, really well. We have seen people, spike their sales pretty significantly over the course of a weekend just using this strategy. So you can use this post-launch too. If you want to do a push, you just have to come up with an angle, right? Maybe it's not the launch of the product, it's not being released that day, but maybe a new version of it is coming out, or maybe there's a new feature that's being added, or just be creative and come up with some reason. This 3 release push on a product, honestly, I don't really know why it works so well, but it does work well. And these types of releases get picked up in Google searches for product related keywords in general. So, it's a pretty powerful strategy. If we go into Amazon, we're going to start with a branding release. In that branding release, we are going to link to the off Amazon store and your Amazon store. So we're going to link to both of them. And if you don't have an off Amazon store, or your client doesn't have an off Amazon store, hit me up and we'll talk later about why you absolutely have to have one. The biggest, most important thing is do not ever, 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 never, ever, ever link directly to an Amazon product in a press release or any off-page backlinking that you do with the intent of manipulating or getting better results in Google. It will completely crater your Amazon rankings. And the main reason for that is Amazon really depends on what happens after you click through to a product. When that prospect clicks through to a product and then they bounce, Amazon hates that, and it will kill your product rankings when that happens. And what do crawlers do? Crawlers click on it and they don't buy. It emulates that, and Google or Amazon for whatever reason has not shown the intelligence, or maybe they just don't care to exclude crawlers and things like that. So we have seen where if you link directly to an Amazon product, it will kill your Amazon rankings. And then again, similarly, don't use CTR here. It's really dangerous because that's just going to even amplify that effect even more. So when we're using press releases for Amazon products, we're really caring more about Amazon search as opposed to Google search. We're still going to drive some traffic through Google, and we'll talk about how to link to a product in a minute. But most people who are shopping on Amazon are already on Amazon, so we want to kind of build that relevance there and kind of protect those Amazon rankings at all costs. So how do we link to a product? It's very simple. We link to a search page. You can either use a keyword like the picture on the right, or you can link to the branded product ID, right? So, and that actually should be a branded keyword, not branded product ID. So you can see here in the right-hand side where it says Vornado Sphere, that's a branded keyword, right? So the personal fan is the keyword, Vornado Sphere is the brand there. Or we can link to the product ID for that. And by doing that, we land on a search page. Any human that's going to click through there is going to click through, and they're going to see the product and they say, oh, hey, here it is. We're going to click on it. The benefit of the branded or the product ID is that it's just that product that shows up. If you go with that branded keyword, you can see where it's still picking up the brand, but now it's showing a few other options that are similar to that. So it's in this case, since it's personal fan, it's matching, personal air circulator fan too. So you're going to get some extra product overlap. And if you don't care about that, then by all means go for that. If you're really wanting to focus on, traffic for that specific product, then you're going to want to use the product ID in that search. And then you're going to take the URL that you get from Amazon up there, and then you're going to backlink to that. That's what you're going to link to. So I know this sounds a little bit crazy, but this is, definitely what works. From a structuring perspective, with press releases and how we're going to use it, it's very similar to the non-Amazon strategy, except we're going to link to both the product search and the off Amazon product page. So, if you're linking to that fan, we're going to link to that fan search page. And then the second link in each release is also going to go to the Shopify storefront that's selling that same fan, for example. Again, frequency is up to you. Front run any seasonality. So if you know for a fact that okay, we're still selling the fans, we know that those are going to start really selling in June. Well, let's start maybe sending some press releases out in April or May. If we're selling heaters, we probably want to start selling, sending out some press releases on that, a month or so before, that sales ramps up. You're gonna know from your sales volume, or just kind of generally taking guesses if it's a new product, what that seasonality looks like. Obviously, if there's no seasonal aspect to it, then just send them out. You can add a third link if you want to the actual storefront itself, whether it's on or off Amazon, if you really want to. I don't have a strong feeling about that one way or another. And then all the other e-com strategies are, you're going to just tweak them the same, where, for example, if it's a stack, then that base release is going to link to both that Amazon product search and the off Amazon product page, and so on and so forth. But I didn't want to redraw every single one and go through every single, strategy there again. Crypto. Let's talk about crypto. Crypto is another interesting one. We are one of the few press release services that is happy to take your crypto press releases. We're happy to write about crypto. We're happy to work with projects. The main caveat there is that any crypto project has to have a legitimate website. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be super fancy, but it does have to be an actual website with a domain name of some sort. So in your press releases, you're going to link to the website, and I also like to link to CoinMarketCap, or similar. Like if it's an NFT, you're not going to link to CoinMarketCap, right? You're going to link to OpenSea or something like that. For individual tokens, use any of the stack strategies. Kind of treat it more like a generic sort of organic page, if you will. We'll talk about in a minute about some cloud stacks to use for NFTs. With crypto projects, you always, even if you don't usually do this, start with the branding PR that goes out to premium, because you really want those financial links. This is where some of the other links that aren't important for local come into play. Like Benzinga is it's a highly sought after, frankly, very financial, brand. This is the type of stuff where that really shines. And then, I very rarely recommend that you use a lot of premium. This is one place where I would, because crypto is so financial in nature that the big hitter outlets, if you will, on premium or gold, if you're a gold customer, you're already getting these anyways. And so I would definitely recommend that you make heavy use of those for that that extra boost. And frankly speaking, the crypto guys, they like to see this stuff anyways. So directly, linking to NFTs. Again, frequency is up to you, but I always recommend two a month to start with. Every release promotes an individual NFT, so you're going to pick the ones you think are popular or the ones that are already popular. Link to the NFT itself and a collection, whether it's on your own website or the OpenSea is always a great option for this. And what we're really just trying to do is promote individual NFT projects here. You can build stacks too. This is right now. This shows kind of one big project for a single collection where each stack is about a very popular NFT. But honestly, the way I like to use this even better is when you have a project that has multiple collections and you're going, so instead of linking to the NFT collection, you're going to link to the project homepage, and then each stack itself is going to be a stack that's pointing at the collection itself, and then the relevant NFT page as well. I do like that model a little bit better because it kind of helps tie everything together, where you're linking back to your project and you're linking back to the collections, and then you're stacking everything on top of that. So